Should be good to go.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to call this meeting of the Coventry Technical Review Committee to order. It is Monday, August 18th at 1:37 p.m. We're going to go through our agenda. First, I do note that there is a quorum of the TRC present. Second, emergency evacuation plan. We're all heading out that door and right outside. Next, approval of minutes. We do have the July 14th minutes out. Were they distributed?
They
Do you
were,
know?
yeah.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? If not, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
I'll second. All right, motion by Chief Witt, seconded by Chief Katie. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor of approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Before we get into the, yes.
The nicely done to him.
Oh, okay. Before we get into the new business, I'll just note for the record that one of the items on our agenda, Coventry Center, which is a master plan at the intersection of Arnold Road and New London Turnpike, is not going to be heard or receive comments from the TRC today. We are still waiting on finalization of traffic on that. So the only item of business we will discuss today is item 4.1, Westwood Estates Reconfiguration Plan. This is for TRC comments to the Planning Commission. This is a major land development with an associated zone change at the master plan stage. The applicant is proposing to increase the number of mobile home sites within the property through a combination of the creation of new infill sites along existing roads and 3 new private roads within the property, and the relocation reorientation of some existing mobile homes to allow for the installation of new mobile homes on adjacent sites. This proposal includes a corresponding zone change application, which will be subject to a recommendation of the Planning Commission and ultimately decided by the Town Council. They are looking to add a total of 46 total mobile homes to the site through this proposal. Josh, that's the correct number?
Yep.
All right. So the way we do TRC for all those in the room is that the members of the Town Technical Review Committee will offer their comments. And these comments will end up in a TRC report. Anyone is welcome to a copy of that. We do not take public comments at the TRC. This is not your chance to be heard as a member of the public. All of the comments will be passed along to the Planning Commission, TRC comments, and any public comment you wish to make can be emailed. It'll pass along to the Planning Commission for their August 27th meeting at Town Hall across the street at 6:30. And then this project is also subject to a zone change petition in which the Town Council will weigh in on the zone change aspect. I do not believe we have a date set for the council action. It would likely be in late September. Unless, Tom, are you aware of any date set yet?
First reading August 26th,
Okay, yep.
but then not the second reading.
So
So
we-
they'll be awaiting the
Yeah.
recommendation.
So there's gonna be an action by the council to do a first reading August 26th, which is it's basically not a substantive discussion, it's just acknowledgement that there's something submitted. The hearing on this will be a date yet to be determined, likely late September, early October is a guess. So that's sort of housekeeping for all those in the room. With that being said, I think we're ready to take the TRC member comments. Josh, I might ask for you to go first, please.
Sure. So on the plans themselves, planning staff requests AP 44 lots 4, 5, and 6 be added to the application or explain why they are not included in the application. Provide information on which new units will have sewer connections and which will have OWTS. Show the designated areas on the site plan and provide a calculation demonstrating that the Westwoods Estates property still meets the required 10% of recreation and open space. Provide dimensions on site plan to demonstrate that all of the proposed sites meet the required 50-foot width at the setback line, specifically T1, T2, and S1. Provide more information on the available parking/driveway locations for some of the proposed new units, specifically B6, B7, S4, S5, T1, and T2. Provide more details on the physical method of moving the older units, including what would happen to the units that get damaged. Provide a narrative summary that details the legal rights of mobile home owners who do not wish for their units to be moved or altered. And what is the applicant's plan if the proposed infill areas are rendered unavailable for new units based on mobile home owners who wish to remain in place? Provide clarification if the new units created by turning existing units will have the required width, size, and coverage limits. Provide confirmation on whether new stop signs are going to be installed at the newly created intersections. Provide clarification on how the application will maintain compliance with the required buffer on the new Road B off Cherry Lane. The proposed plans show little to no buffer where 100 feet is required. Planning staff requests that the applicant investigate whether the newly created Road A should connect to the stub that comes off of Airport Road that is in direct proximity in order to create this as a through road. Provide contextual information on what will happen to accessory structures, patios, carports, ramps, etc. on the lots that will be realigned. Provide additional information on the rationale behind the waiver requested from the requirement to supply a letter from the Kent County Water Authority about providing water service, line 55 of the checklist. Can such a letter be reasonably incorporated at this stage of the application? The location and details of the proposed septic systems will be required at preliminary plan stage. A landscaping plan will be required at the preliminary plan stage. Planning staff requests that the lower 5 lots, that's AP 35, lot 32.001, AP 43, lot 35, AP 44, lots 4, 5, and 6 be merged into one lot via administrative subdivision at final plan. On the petition,
The ordinance petition.
yes, to the ordinance petition, planning staff requests the following changes and or additional information regarding the proposed ordinance. Reasoning, adding there shall be no other requirements, standards, or limitations applied to what is deemed to be acceptable recreation and or open space at line 127. Insert existing mobile home district standard. Each individual mobile home lot shall contain a minimum of 6,000 square feet. Lot size shall be increased by 5 square feet for each square foot that the mobile home and accessory buildings exceed the allowable size of 1,200 square feet. Back into chapter 255, section 540.6, section C. Insert existing mobile home standard. All streets shall be constructed in accordance with the requirements of chapter 11 of the code. Storm drainage plans must be provided and approved by the town engineer and shall result in no net increase of runoff. Back into chapter 255, section 540.6, section C. Insert existing MHD standard. All mobile home parks shall be provided with a service building consolidating all sanitary, laundry management, and other service facilities. The floor area of such service building shall not exceed 2,500 square feet. at the appropriate location into the proposed ordinance. Insert the word not back into the size of mobile homes shall be changed to a larger home, on line 182 of the proposed ordinance to be consistent with the existing MHD standard. Insert existing MHD standard in accordance with chapter 255, section 1130B2 of the code back into line 138 of, 183 of the new ordinance. Planning staff notes that there are several minor changes needed due to using the old MHD ordinance. The new MHD ordinance is 2025-07. Such changes will be communicated with the applicant directly. And planning staff suggest a rewrite of chapter 255, section 540.5B of the proposed ordinance to improve readability.
Josh? Say that again.
Director McGee, your comments?
Yes, I apologize for not having more time. I just returned back today from vacation, so this all came as a surprise. However, you have a few comments. And one is that my suggestion is that a traffic study be provided prior to the next approval standard,
And when you say that, you mean the preliminary plan?
preliminary plan.
So
correct.
you're interested in a traffic study being submitted
Yeah.
along with preliminary plan phase?
Yeah, between these 46 lots and the existing growth happening at Wood Estates North, those condos, how it impacts the intersection of Reservoir and Clubhouse and Reservoir and Tyler Avenue just needs to be looked at. Storm drainage, definitely needs to be designed to the engineer's, approval so that we have zero increase in runoff and it be maintained on the property. Also, I suggest the Conservation Commission will possibly review and do a recommendation due to the proximity to Tuxet River. And I also noticed while I was sitting here that Airport Road is a private road. So any work along that, a maintenance agreement needs to be put together between all the property owners along Airport Road. This to be done. And lastly, I noticed Kitty Hawk Lane has no work on it, but it looks like there's room for expansion. Is that something that was missed, or is that something that is not going to be done? Because everything else seems to be maximized, and that doesn't seem to be maximized or used at all. So just trying to get everything out on the table one time. And that's all I have.
All right. Let's keep going around the table. We'll have the applicant respond once all the comments are out there. Chief Katie.
Thank you. So we'll be looking at the plans, because the park is a private system for the fire hydrants. Our biggest concern was the water supply as far as the flow goes and to provide for fire protection. The system shall be inspected and maintained in accordance with NFPA 25. This report's done every 3 years and contains the current status of the pressures and volumes available in the system to conduct fire protection for the buildings in the park. I don't believe we've had one in a while from the park. That's done on their expense. It's not something that we do. The system would also need to be capable of providing fire protection for those additional units proposed in this project. So a new test of the system may need to be conducted. That's our most important thing as far as the proposed units. The lighting in the park is determined by the owners really, because it's a private park. We can't mandate it. We'd like to see more lighting, especially in those new proposed areas in the cul-de-sacs. But I can't make you do it. But the most important thing is really the water. What's the current status of the park now? Because we haven't received a report in quite some time. And what is the status of the system as far as putting 46 units in as well? And that's all determined on how close these units are put together, the fire flow calculation. It's based on if they're too close, then you get 5 or 6 units on fire. You have to have the water flow then. So that's done by a private company. They would produce that report and tell you whether it's good or bad. You can even change the size of some of the mains that are going in or add hydrants.
Chief Katie, before we move on for lighting, you mentioned, it's not something we have the power over, but if you had a recommendation to the applicant, do you think that more lighting is needed?
I feel as if it is, yeah, the park seems very dark.
Okay,
And that's what I put in this last one, right? It's determined by the owner, but although we'd like to see more, like,
Okay.
you know.
so I think, why don't, if you don't mind, a comment that we could add to that one is, to seek the applicant to provide, some sort of response as to their proposal for lighting and their justification on why the lighting they would propose is considered appropriate. Would
Yep.
you accept that at the next stage of review?
Yes,
Okay,
and I know that could go either way with the residents. You may not like it so bright,
yeah.
and then others may like it a little brighter at those intersections, you know, so.
Yeah, I think we can give the applicant an opportunity to address from their perspective what they think kind of lighting is needed.
All right.
And then we can have them address how they think it addresses the issues of safety, or
Okay.
let's just say compatibility with the neighborhood character. Some people like it dark or light.
Right.
But let's have the applicant tell us what they plan to do at the next stage of review firmly, and then we still have an opportunity to make comments or recommendations on it, even if
Sure,
it's not
yeah.
public.
And it could just very well be the style of light. You could go with a light that's producing enough light to be safe, but not too bright where it's annoying.
Yep.
You know.
All right. Mr. Levesque.
General comment on project completion, a certificate of conformance and the engineer of record shall be required. COC shall certify that the constructed project meets all required standards, regulations, and specifications in the permitting and construction documents. The COC shall be focused on civil related work includes but is not limited to drainage system components, drainage related to retaining wall placement, earth grading, roadway subbase pavement, concrete flat work, underground utilities, sewer, electric, water, etc., survey markers and monuments, and fire systems. Engineer of record shall partner with a qualified subconsultant, perform necessary inspection related duties if EOR does not perform these duties in-house. All coordination between the OR and inspection subconsultant shall be finalized before construction commences. Separate COCs shall be required from the structural engineer of record and the geotechnical engineer of record as applicable. Certificate of occupancy will not be issued until COCs are received and accepted by the town. Comments on plans, submission of a Town of Coventry soil erosion and sediment control application will be required for the project. Capacity analysis will be required for the proposed sewer connections to the existing private sewer system. Town of Coventry sewer connection application will be required for the proposed sewer connections. Stormwater management shall be provided for the proposed roadways and site that meet state and town requirements. Last question is, please describe how the existing stormwater management system operates for the entire site. Stormwater improvements are not implemented on any projects performed over the past years. What improvements are planned to address existing areas of ponding? End of comments.
The Joe, what? Sorry, can I ask a question?
Actually, we're almost done. I think all we have is Chief Witt, and
Okay.
then I think after
Well-
TRC gives all the comments, I had one last announcement, and then I think the floor is to the applicant.
Sure.
So Chief Witt, do you have any comments on this?
I'm in agreement about a traffic study, prior to the preliminary plan review, we're
Okay.
fine with me, traffic study would be finalized.
Thank you for that, Chief. And then just as an announcement to any interested parties, we have received a number of public comments on this. And public comments are all going to be directed to the planning commission. Planning staff do read them all. But generally, all the comments that you send, either that you have sent or that you plan to send before August 27th will be sent to the planning commission. Just wanted to put that out there for the record. I think that completes all our comments. So the applicant, the floor is yours for any responses. I would just suggest that there's a number of kind of informational requests that we have here. Some of it's looking for feedback and some of it's directing certain things we'd like to change. I know that this is a lot for you to respond to on the spot. I'd love to hear what you got now. And then if you can, I'm asking the applicant to try to respond to as many of these in writing before the end of the day tomorrow. That way we can capture as much as we can in the staff report, which we have to write on Wednesday. And that will affect the staff recommendation and the perspective on the project, how much information we have to work with. So whatever you can discuss now, we'd love to hear it. Whatever you can't, we'd love to see what we can get by Tuesday. That will help us. So that's all I have to say.
Sure.
Floor yours.
Well, I don't have much to say, you know. A lot of this information I received, you know, minutes before it was read. So, you know, the question I was gonna ask Joe. Levesque was, the existing areas of ponding. Do we have some? Identify some sites. I mean, we're not gonna be able to. Work without, you know, identifying, it doesn't have to be right now.
Right.
But if, you know, intersections or addresses, you know, something like that, so we can take a look at it.
Okay.
That's not something that has come up. Sure. So. With regard to the ordinance, as this committee is well aware. I'm not really at liberty to change the ordinance. It's been finalized by the solicitor and submitted to the council by the solicitor. Based on my my submission and his finalization, so I can look at what's been submitted and try to engage the solicitor in some discussion about it, but I don't have the liberty to sit here and say that I'll do anything, you know.
Understood.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
that's, you know, some of the stuff is definitely beyond the requirements of master plan at its conceptual stage, and should be addressed at preliminary without a doubt. But, you know, we'll take a look at all the comments, and, you know, I won't have a written response back to you by the end of the day tomorrow, given the short amount of time that we've had this information. So, you know, we'll proceed on the 27th at our own peril.
understood. For the ordinance, I did catch the solicitor. The solicitor didn't make any substantive changes at all in his review. I think it was largely just formatting. The way the solicitor framed it was, this was an applicant's initiated request. He didn't want to make any substantive changes. Planning staff obviously hadn't given any comments on it by that point. I can tell you that the concerns that planning staff have with the ordinance at this point are likely leading towards planning having a negative recommendation on the ordinance. Now, we're just recommending to the commission, who is then just again recommending to the council. The council is the true decision maker on the ordinance. But based on where it stands right now and the lack of clarity on some of the questions we asked, I think we're heading for a negative recommendation on that. I think some of the components we bring up in the ordinance, I did discuss with the solicitor the process, because some of them you might claim are substantive changes, and I asked the solicitor if such substantive changes could be made on the floor of the hearing by the town council. He said that's not clear to him at this point. So there is an opportunity, if there's one that he would claim as a substantive change, to essentially resubmit the ordinance and have it reposted. There's also the chance that some of the changes we have could be just made on the floor of the council. That'll be a legal question between yourself and the solicitor to answer. I'm just trying to be transparent that planning staff see enough questions and enough issues that we would say negative on the way it's drafted now. You know, but we'll allow that recommendation to hit the commission, and then you can obviously make your presentation, and the commission has the choice to make.
That's the plan.
Sounds good. Do you guys have any other responses, questions, anything that either one of you wanted to touch on while we're here, just to be clarity?
Most of the first section, as far as the application is concerned, I guess I have to defer to Mike to see if he has any, you know, responses on the plans. So you can offer your.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you for being here, Chief.
Sure. I'm Zavali, Commonwealth Engineers and Consultants, with an engineer of record, that's one of the project. Sure, outside this, right? Mike Zavali, Commonwealth Engineers and Consultants, with the engineer of record for the project. We're representing Hometown America. And as Tom mentioned, a number of these initial items are in our purview to try to respond to. I'll do my best today but I would rather give a good answer later than a bad answer quickly.
That's fine, Mike.
So for some of these, I'm going to respectfully request a deferral until we can look into them more.
That's fine.
So with that said, and the only other thing I think kind of is an extension of that is, I know that we're slated to be on for master plan for the 27th.
That's correct.
Given the amount of items that we need to try to address and the fact that, as Tom said, realistically, we're not going to be able to turn around kind of response that you're going to need to provide to the commission by tomorrow afternoon. We confirm with our client, but would it be possible to potentially continue to a subsequent hearing? And Tom, I'll defer to you on that, but I'm just thinking realistically, to give a better answer to the number of items we have to address, I'd rather not rush it in the 27th, but
That's
As
fine.
you know,
but-
that's a client.
okay.
That, so I'll give it to you this way. At the end of the day, Mike, you can speak with the client, you can make a decision if you have a formal request to continue or not. Based on, I'm only asking that you give us the best information you can by the end of the day tomorrow. If you can't get to all of them, then whatever you can get to is helpful. That'll give us clarity.
Mhm.
We're gonna reflect on all that information in our staff report, which does become part of the record to the commission. Based on where we stand right now, I think, planning staff would likely have a recommendation to continue based on not having information on some of these. So we'd be looking for information to see if that recommendation to continue clarifies something for us. But for right now, I think that would be staff's position. Now, at the end of the day, staff is only providing a recommendation to the commission. The matter will still be open. There will still be a public hearing. The commission will hear the applicant's presentation. They'll have the planning staff report, which at this stage, I'm thinking may be a recommendation to continue to gather more information at a future meeting. And at this stage, the application is, without additional information, is looking at a negative recommendation on the ordinance. But that might end up being clarified with more information, and maybe that position changes at a future meeting. So I think that's where we're at, which is that this is not getting a positive recommendation. If anything, we're looking for more information and we're looking for ordinance changes to bring this more in line. At the end of the day, that's the commission's decision, and then you guys can make your presentation and see if you can kind of address any of those concerns at the meeting as well. So does that all make sense?
It does, and I think from our standpoint, the goal would be to try to get a positive recommendation from staff, and a little negative, so, and that comes from providing.
Yeah,
information.
yeah, we get it. I mean, this is a different type of application. Some of the questions are in here are maybe simpler and more technical in nature to answer. It maybe just takes going into the site plan and making a few markings or measurements. Some of them are big. Some of them are, what happens when a mobile home owner says, I don't want you to relocate my unit? What's the applicant's next plan for that? How does that shift if you have multiple applicants that make that choice? Are you leaving units off the plan, or are you gonna relocate them to different areas? We're very interested in that, getting some contextual information from the applicant on that. To my knowledge, from what I've heard, at the applicant, and this isn't coming from you, Mr. Cronin, this is coming from Mr. Coleman, that the concept of picking the unit up and turning it and putting it back down is going to be made a voluntary choice that the homeowner or mobile homeowner will be able to elect for that or not. So that's something that we're really curious to understand how that affects your plan, and how far have you gotten with knowing if certain homeowners have given you consent to that or not.
We have not yet put a toe over the threshold of anything. I mean, we put this application in May. This is literally the first substantive response that we have received 4 months later. We have zero confidence in that what we have submitted will be approved. So none.
So do you know if the applicant has a plan B for homeowners that don't wish for their unit to be relocated?
96 apartments?
Well,
I don't know. No, I'm just being fresh. I don't,
Okay.
yeah, we don't know,
We
right?
don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's fair. I just wasn't sure if you had.
You button for me.
No,
Yeah, no. I just wanted to know if you had an approach in mind.
I think I can speak to that a little bit.
Okay.
And again, in conversation with Chris Coleman. the primary goal, and that's why it's called phase one of the project, really is the infill areas.
They're not the relocation, it's
That is,
the
yes,
empty parcels that you can fill in.
exactly right.
Okay.
That's the primary goal, and that's where the majority of the proposed units will be derived.
Yep.
37 out of 46 would come from infill units that we can construct without adversely affecting any of the existing units.
Okay.
And I think that's the big picture, something important to keep in mind. And obviously, I think that would be of greatest concern to the current residents in Westwood.
Yeah.
The remaining 9 units are depicted on the plan. Those are not the specific selected units that Hometown America is definitively thinking about. To Tom's point, we're just at that threshold where we want to show, as an example, units that are currently, I guess you could call them underutilized because of the orientation of the structures taking up 2 lots.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's currently 1 lot, but the goal is to reorient them to allow for 2 lots to exist where one lot does.
Correct. So for the 9 lots that are identified, those are not the definitive. Hometown has not looked and said, yes, those are lots that we want to approach and try to change. We show them as a placeholder to indicate that to reach the 46 total units Hometown would like to have, that 9 units would potentially be reconfigurations. They could be different lots within the development.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, which is the idea is 37 units have a firm location. 9 units do not have a firm location, and you do not intend for them to be made firm at this stage of review. Is that-
No, exactly right. And further, Hometown America, their approach is not to go in an adverse manner towards any existing owners.
Got it.
My impression from Chris is they want to work with people who are at a point where they're voluntarily looking to change, move, what have you. And this could be something that would be a longer term process. It wouldn't be something that would happen in a 6-month, 1-year time frame of it going for all 9 at one time. This would be something that would be implemented incrementally as units of that nature become available. As residents or owners are looking to move, change, what have you, those would be the way that the ones that Hometown would want to approach.
I can appreciate that, and that's a wrinkle of information that we didn't have, which is the concept that the 9 additional units are meant to be flexible. That does bring concerns on the town's end, which is if we're approving 9 units, you've got the right to place them, but we have no idea where they go, and it would affect some of the technical details of the plan. I'm assuming that by doing the infill, you'd be shifting the impervious surface from one area to another. So there's certain areas where that might shift kind of technical basis of the review. So I think we might want to get farther in terms of an exchange of information on that. If there are areas where you know are certainly off limits and there wouldn't be a consideration of a reconfiguration, and there are areas where you would, and you're just waiting to make the initial contact with homeowners to see where there's a voluntary willingness.
Yeah.
But I understand that, and I am also assuming that you probably prefer to do them next to each other. Hard to take one person volunteering and saying relocate my unit. If it's not everybody else on that street, you may not get enough space to do the infill one.
True.
So I'm assuming that there's a give and take here. I mean, to me, that puts 37 units in a different category than the other 9,
Yes.
right? 37 are known, 9 are completely flexible and unknown as to their location.
That would be a fair way to characterize it, yes. And I think, to your point, decisions made about the development, like a technical nature will hinge entirely on locations where the work is going to take place. If we don't know that, then we can't definitively tell you, here are the technical impacts.
Yeah.
But again, I want to try to refresh something that Tom mentioned. This is master plan, and we understand there's another step where there's going to be a lot of robust analysis and design and collaboration and communication with the town on the preliminary submission stage.
Yep.
Where those questions will be answered to a greater degree. So in here and now, what we're looking for, and what Hometown is seeking is a blessing for that cap to establish the final total number that will ever be in Hometown. And then work that as they can and as the development and the constraints and parameters will allow.
Now, here would be my request hearing that, and I think that I understand the position. There's 9 units also. That's not the majority of units you're seeking. It's only 9. But at the end of the day, the planning commission and the town council would be blessing a decision to give you those 9 without knowledge of where they are. I'd like to get farther along in the information on that as much as we can, which would be, are you able to identify sections of the park where you know none of the 9 would be there? Are you able to identify sections of the park where that would be your higher priority? And is that what you're showing us now? And that would at least allow us, the council, the planning commission, and even the residents themselves to have better information as to, are they in an area where they're likely going to be asked? Are they not? And we could then at least take the next steps in terms of, are the areas where you would be doing these 9 in an area that has a technical challenge or not? That would help us. And at the end of the day, I kind of see those 9 units as we're going to need something more than just an open-ended, they could go anywhere. We'll need a little more information, but I understand what you're saying, which is, can we have a little more time to locate the precise locations until prelim? I think let's work together on that and see what you guys can offer us. And then we'll see what that is, and then that information will be given to the planning commission and the council. I'm assuming the council and the planning commission are also likely gonna wanna have the best idea possible of where those units are going. So I think whatever information you can give us will help clarify the request.
And to that end, there's gonna be some on-the-ground work Hometown's gonna have to do to communicate with the residents.
Yeah.
In those areas, because they can't work in a vacuum and show a parcel on a plan and to do that kind of strategic planning, you're gonna need to know, as I said, which people are even interested, if any.
I mean,
Where can they target their efforts where it's gonna be feasible for the residents?
yeah, I mean, it's your application and it's your role to provide the information that you see is suitable. What I'd like to see is more information on those 9 units. And if getting more information on those 9 units requires going to those priority locations and having those direct conversations with the homeowners, seeing if they're interested, seeing if they're willing, seeing what that conversation looks like. We may have a month until we're really looking at a firmer decision. If we have a motion to continue, you may have a month of time to see how those conversations go and then come back and say, we're getting an indication that this is likely a location or that this is not likely a location.
Mhm.
I do assume my decision makers will want to hear about that, but I understand what you're saying, Mike, which is you don't know if you're going to give me an exact location this stage, but I'd like to move that forward. Okay.
We will try to do so.
Great, thank you.
So, into the specific items, so I'll address the ones that I can address now. So the first comment related to, plat 40 lots 4, 5, and 6 be added to the application. So stipulated, and I think that ties into the last
Yeah,
technical comment, which is the request that the lower 5 lots be consolidated into a single one by administrative subdivision. I did speak to Chris Coleman. He had no problem with that. And I think collectively we agree it cleans things significantly for the development to do that.
and the first comment is really getting to the point of the application itself did not advertise it as including those lots. This could be an informational question. Our town GIS records indicate there's more lots than I believe the surveyor found. And so our question to you would be, the class 1 surveyor really has what we would see as the most binding information. This is really more of a paperwork question. It's not a substantive question of what's happening on the ground. It's just, do these lots actually exist or not? And the surveyor, I don't think, had a firm answer one way or the other. My suggestion is, let's see if we can get a firm answer. Do these lots actually exist? Is there a record for them? And if so, let's make sure we can consider them as part of the subject lots. It's basically, we'd like information to confirm, but really it's a matter of who's got the right information, your class 1 surveyor that says they don't exist or the town that says they do. At the end of the day, it doesn't change your plan. It's more of perfecting the record.
Yep.
So go ahead.
Provide information on which new units will have sewer connections and which will have OWTS. So, as is known, the development has a combination of both. There are low pressure force mains in parts of the park, and there are septic systems for other units. At this early stage, we don't have enough information to be able to say definitively which units are gonna be going low pressure force main versus OWTS. We have inquired for information from Westwood Estates about their existing infrastructure. It's spotty.
Hmm.
Part of what we will do between master and preliminary would be an analysis, first of all, identifying which units are tied to what
Yeah.
other service. And then we will have to address the overall capacity issue because this is all going into the force main on Reservoir Road.
Yeah.
That has a finite capacity. We need to make sure that when we propose to go into the force main as additional units would be accommodated by that. And so again, at this stage, we can't tell you definitively which units are going to be septic versus low pressure force main.
And that's fine.
The goal would be as many low pressure force main units as possible and minimize the number of septics.
The goal is as many sewers as possible. You just don't have good information on the sewers now, and you need to do a study, and that's why you need a little more time. And that makes sense to me. I think my question is it known that some of the units are occurring in an area where you know the force main is right in front of the unit? And are those situations where you know you're tying in? Is the real question, you're not sure if you're extending it.
And I need to get that information to you by conversation with hometown
Gotcha.
and people who are on the ground that have better understanding
Okay.
of where that is.
So what's the difference between tying the line and not having access to it? No,
The big line on Reservoir,
no,
Or
just the infrastructure and.
it would be probably a combination of how far away is the existing low pressure and what's the size of the existing. So if we've got an existing 1.5 inches,
Mhm.
I would be, and depending on how many units are on that, I'd be skeptical of putting another 7 or 8 onto an 1.5 inch line. And if it's a 2 inch, okay, now we might be able to do it.
Mhm.
So really, even if there's a line in front of a house, you can't tell me yet if it makes sense for that to connect until you do the study.
Sure.
Okay.
That's correct. And the analysis of the overall system.
Joe, what's your take? Are you comfortable getting that at the next stage of review? At the end of the day, the units are going where they're
Yeah, they
going.
have some work to do, so yeah,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Basically that
Yeah.
study, and then we see it at preliminary plan. Okay.
The third comment relates to the open space. I did actually do an analysis of the existing open space and then the prospective open space that we left once the infill is complete, and we're well over 10% in both circumstances.
Okay.
I'll provide that information to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a code compliance issue. I think
It
we
is.
just wanted to have some documentation on.
Number 4, provide dimensions on site plan to demonstrate all proposed sites meet the required 50-foot width setback line. And specifically for units T1, T2, and S1. I will have to check that and confirm that for you. One thing that I want to clarify is that we're not at this point intending to provide survey certified property line plans for all of these prospective lots. To have the surveyor come in right now, draw meets and bounds and angles and lengths for a lot that may never exist, if we don't get approved, would seem to be out of order. So
Yeah, I think one question we'll have, and I understand that point, Mike, about not seeking a class 1 survey of each individual, and we'll call them land condo units for now. I mean, they're
we
not
call them
lots.
sites.
Yeah, sites. Is that I think, there is code, and it's code that there's discussion on in the ordinance section where, the code suggests each lot or site should be 6,000 square feet. There looks to be a discussion amongst the applicant to remove that requirement. We're interested in maintaining that requirement, or at least hearing more about it. I think we'd be interested to know, are there any sites you're creating that are below that threshold?
No.
Okay, because it's tough to read on the site plan. They look close. Look like you got a few that are close to 6,000 here and there.
You like reading upside down? We've got a lot area
Oh, thank
summary
you.
table.
Great.
And we are.
You're above
proposing-
6,000.
We're above 6,000 for all of them, as well as we did an analysis of the unit coverage based on what they're now proposing with the double wide
Yep.
units.
Yep.
Is what they like to build, so the instruction from Hometown was create lots that will accommodate double wides, meet the zoning setback requirements for those sites, and not exceed coverage. So this table shows lot area and coverage.
Let me ask this question. I know that the code that you haven't brought into your ordinance, the code that exists for current mobile home
Mhm.
suggests that units that are above, is it 1,200 square feet, Josh?
Yeah.
Units above 1,200 square feet,
Structures.
structures above 1,200 square feet then require larger lots. Have you incorporated that into your analysis?
Yes.
Okay, so like,
Basically,
even with the bigger structures, your lots are big enough.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
that's helpful. Thank you for that. Like, that helps clarify that answer. To your knowledge, there's no site you're creating or proposing that is below 6,000 or below the requirements of what the codes would require.
No, but again, I want to check width, setback line, all of these.
Fair enough.
I'll
Okay.
double check for those 3 lots.
Even if it's not class one, I'm sure your information will still be helpful to us.
Oh, yeah, where it gets dicey for us as engineers, we're not allowed to, play around in surveyors pond, so there are limits to how much information we can present. Or a surveyor looks at it and says, hey, that survey information, you're out of your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
And then we get in trouble.
And then from your estimation, even though the numbers you pointed out in that table aren't based on class one, you feel there's a comfortable buffer that no site is being created below the current requirements of the code.
Correct.
Great, thank you.
Provide more information on available parking / driveway locations for some of the proposed new units. Specifically B6, 7, S4, S5, T1, and T2. At this stage, again, we don't typically get into that level of detail for showing driveways and other site features. I can look at those 6.
I think that we called those 6 efforts that were questions and where you were located then.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I
Yeah.
would say, let me look at that more closely on those 6 and get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Provide more details on the physical method of moving the older units, including what would happen to the units that get damaged. I'm going to punt that one over to Hometown. I can't really speak to how they go about enacting that process with moving trailers. I'm going to be out of my element and giving a bad answer,
That makes
or
sense.
an uninformed answer.
As you both communicate back with Hometown, please tell them that that is a question we do want an answer on, ideally by tomorrow for us to understand for our staff report. If not by tomorrow, then as soon as reasonably possible.
Mhm.
I'm sure that's a question many people have in terms of what's the physical way they're planning to relocate and reorient these units and what happens if there's damage. I would assume that's a question a lot of people may want an answer to.
Yep, understood, understandable. That really, I'm not gonna read the whole next one, if it's all right, because it's basically
Yeah,
the same.
It's kind of asking what's the legal mechanism.
Right.
Is it Hometown America? And Tom, I don't know if you want to speak to this, that the position is there's no legal right to relocate a unit unless the homeowner or mobile homeowner agrees. We reached a point where we agree there's no legal right to relocate unless the homeowner voluntarily concurs.
I mean, that's the approach that Hometown has communicated to us.
Okay.
I mean, the legal answer is eviction. So there's two different answers there. They haven't talked about going there, but the answer to your question is eviction.
But basically, Hometown right now, from what I'm understanding from you, is saying that they're not inserting that they have a legal right to relocate or reorient a unit unless the owner agrees. Right now, that's Hometown's position.
Right, they're seeking a cooperative approach. I don't know if they would agree that's their legal right. But that's their
But
approach
it's their
here.
approach.
Yeah,
That's
for
their
sure.
approach.
Yeah,
Not their policy.
Yep.
Not necessarily the legal
right.
foundation, but.
Okay. I'd certainly like to hear more from them on that, if they're willing to put something in writing to that effect. I know we've gotten maybe emails from Chris Coleman that have said, yeah, it'll be voluntary. I think we'd like something, a document from Hometown that describes their approach. And if their approach is we're gonna seek consent, and that's the only way we're gonna move forward, I'd love for that to be in writing as part of the application.
Number 8, provide clarification if the new units created by turning existing units will have the required width, size, and coverage limits. Again, this is related to those 9 units, and until we know exactly which lots are in play and what size unit they want to try to put on there, I don't know how much clarification I can give you on that at this time.
I think, I mean, the main question is, you know, within the ordinance, you're looking to potentially, it seems the way we're reading it is remove the threshold that you need to have 6,000 square feet per site.
No, actually not.
That's the way we're reading it.
That's not the intent.
Okay,
The intent is for any new sites.
Right, any changes to sites.
Right.
Will comply
with the 6,000.
with the whole mobile home district ordinance that we've.
What we're trying to protect against is there are no really existing sites that do not meet the 6,000 square foot standard, that are currently occupied and not even necessarily in play.
Yeah.
We want to preserve hometowns bright, maintain those substandard units as they are, provided that they don't propose to do anything with them.
I think, and that there's probably, this is where I think there's good communication between our sides. When we saw you remove the standard for a minimum area of 6,000, we assumed that you were heading towards new sites, looking for new sites to be under. I would say if that standard finds itself in there, I would understand and concur that pre-existing non-conforming sites can remain. I think when you removed that 6,000 standard, we assumed you also did remove it for new sites, whether that was your intent or not, it has that legal effect. I think if we can get on the same page about an understanding that pre-existing non-conforming sites can remain, while new sites should be designed this way, I think we can talk about that ordinance concern can go away pretty quickly with some communication.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
That's the intent, so,
Great.
yeah, no problem.
Yeah, and again, it was just want to make sure that we didn't box our client into a corner, and all of a sudden the town's looking for every lot, whether new or existing.
I mean, to be honest, I think you probably got some legal rights around the pre-existing non-conforming. The idea that you're creating a new ordinance for this, I know as an ordinance legislative action, and you want to know, does that refresh, does that reset? I would support the concept that existing sites that are below 6,000 can continue on.
Right.
We're interested in the new sites. We're clearly interested in making sure the new sites don't get too small, too dense, too tight. So we can, I think some communication, we can get past that one.
I think you're right, Phil. I mean, the idea that an ordinance would be required for the site that came up last month at the town council meeting is legislative and can change the rules for this. So that's why we have been
Understood.
proceeding.
I think some exchange of documents to verify, the various positions on what should happen with pre-existing non-conforming smaller sites that exist today. Maybe there's an exchange of information about that. We can get some concurrence on that. And then you guys would feel more comfortable putting the standard of 6,000 minimum back in.
Okay.
I think that's where we're headed. And I don't think I don't see that being conceptually challenging on our end right now.
Yes, that's fine.
Right.
Next comment, provide confirmation on whether new stop signs are going to be installed at the newly created intersections. I would anticipate that would be contingent on a traffic study and impact analysis. We're going to be doing at the preliminary design stage, and then a board analysis to determine whether or not stop signs are actually warranted at those new intersections that we're creating.
That's fair. Chief, are you comfortable or at the next stage of review when they have a traffic study, we'll hear more about exacts on stop signs? Okay.
And big picture, I don't think hometown would be averse to having them installed. If the warrant demonstrates that they're required. My question about that is there anything that hometown will have to do? A stop sign typically is tied to a local ordinance. It has to be ratified at the town council.
We're heading in that direction.
Correct. In a private development, would that also be the case?
No, actually, I think on private roads, the town does not stake a claim, which is odd, because then the question is, are those stop signs as legally legitimate as those on private? The town is currently transitioning where I think we're considering the town council will weigh in on every single stop sign, every single traffic communication. That's not been our practice in the past, but that's, I think, where we're headed. I don't think we've answered the question, what happens for private, should the town council weigh in? So at this point, let's just consider that information that's good for us to know.
Kevin's big old
I-
box where it's.
As a member of the traffic advisory commission with, Chief Witt. I think the standard we look for, any of us look for, that you have to follow the MUTCD standards that we do on town roads. We'd expect the same thing on private roads, that everyone has the same level of reflectivity, sizes and whatnot. That's all.
Understood.
Nothing special.
I mean, and you guys might have an approach where you perhaps have a desire for a stop sign somewhere, maybe you're getting a resident concern and you wanna put it in. I think it's private, we just like to hear about it, we'd like to know about it. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I'm just kind of thinking ahead, on Tom's part, if we're gonna have to come back beyond the PUD zoning ordinance for additional town council.
At this point, I don't think town council and the town is not taking the position that private roads that we authorize them.
We do not have an ordinance in place.
At this day today, we don't assume we have any authority over that. By the time you're building,
We just did an inventory of all signs, which is, you know, preliminary to having the ordinance done by our solicitor, but today we don't have it.
Okay. Provide clarification on how the application will maintain compliance with the required buffer of the new road B off Cherry Lane. Proposed plans show little or no buffer where 100 foot is required. I need to go back into that and correct that because we do not have 100 foot and I'm gonna need to add it, which is gonna affect some of those units at the end.
yeah, and that, I mean, there's a lot of units that were there. Well, at the end of the day, if you don't mind,
Or two.
were there just 2 units that are affected by that?
Two that would be affected, maybe three.
Okay, so,
So I need to.
do you, I mean, I know that's probably a challenging revision to make in 2 days, but is that something that I think you have information back to us as to suggesting? For this plan, are you gonna remove them out of the buffer or are you gonna change the ordinance? I think that would be
I can-
step one.
I can give you an answer as to whether or not, I'll give you an answer as we're sitting here right now. 100 foot is gonna affect some of the proposed lots that we're currently depicting, and they
Yep.
won't be able to be depicted that way.
And your plan is to relocate the lots and not to change the ordinance.
Correct.
Okay. And then, yeah, I think we'll be curious, even if it's narrative at the meeting, even if by tomorrow you're able to give me some narrative, we think one will be located here, here, here. Let's say you have 3 to relocate. We'd be curious to know some general areas. If you can get a revised plan, great, but I know that's probably more challenging to do in the time frame that we have.
More challenging. But not possible.
Yeah, understood, understood. But I think if you have an idea on that, we'll take it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Planning staff requests that the applicant investigate whether the newly created road A should connect to the stub that comes off Airport Road that is in direct proximity in order to create this as a through road. So I believe you were referring to that.
So for us, it's a question to ask of, do we need a cul-de-sac here? As opposed to just running them through. There might be people that support that, there might be people that don't. We were curious if you explored it.
We haven't explored it. I'd want to see if that is more of just a glorified driveway and what the potential impacts of putting roadway through would be on the adjacent units.
I think Josh looked at it and he had an indication there seems to be traffic that would travel here now. Josh, you want me to?
So, yeah, I mean, we were just thinking that, it did look like, more than a glorified driveway.
Mhm.
I have not actually, been to that and, looked at that, roadway, in, person. But, you know, we just thought it was a choice to put the cul-de-sac there that we said, well, maybe to go through instead would be, better.
Mhm.
We weren't sure. We thought we'd bring it up.
Pros and cons of each approach. I think one of the pros for what's currently depicted is these 3 units have a dead end, or these 2 have a dead
More
end.
privacy.
These units have a dead end.
Mhm.
So with the through road, you're gonna have that traffic coming through on a regular basis. Cons are, again, we've got 2 dead ends and we've got some more pavement in the cul-de-sac. Not knowing what condition this is in and what kind of upgrade it would require, that may be a toss.
Yeah, I think
Might have to put new asphalt here that would not put in here.
So I think what we'd be looking for is if you are willing to explore it, maybe come back with, we like our design, we want to stick with our design.
Mhm.
This is because the pros outweigh the cons and this is your rationale. I think that's what we're looking for. I don't think we didn't have a hard approach to we want it our way. It was more, it looked like a natural idea to connect, but we'd like to hear from you about why you didn't.
I'll talk to hometown. and You what they'll have to say about it. I think they're probably gonna need to talk to some people too.
Yeah, I assume, I mean, it's, and the way it lays out, I mean, it could end up being that, the natural still use of it, depending on how you set up your curves and the like. So,
I think Kevin had noted in his comments that that area, Airport Road's a private road.
Correct.
yeah,
And we're in an adversarial position with some of the owners of that private road. So even if it's a great traffic idea, I'm not sure we're gonna be able to accomplish.
But you are abutters to Airport Road, correct?
Yes.
Somewhere we have to get to an agreement between the confrontational abutter and the other owners of the park that's out there to get together and put together a maintenance agreement, because right now the town does not do asphalt repair, we do not sweep the road. The only thing we do is plow it for a safety reason only, but we do not maintain it.
Where's the, what is the town's responsibility, and Kevin, just so I have some kind of.
We actually have no
No,
responsibility.
what's the-
for
it's
private
all private.
What's the, is it at the intersection with?
Oh, Reservoir?
reservoir.
From Reservoir down, okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
And so, but Airport Road represents a different type of road for you. The Hometown America owns all the roads except for Airport, and Airport is privately owned with some degree of lack of clarity of who owns and who's responsible. Is that fair?
Of the butters are supposed to, of the owners supposedly responsible
Yeah.
parties.
Maybe by
Now let-
default,
I'll let
because
the
like you said, there's no agreement anyway.
Gotcha. So, yeah,
This is a more conservative, this is not relying on a connection to a road, but we don't necessarily have the.
I can understand. Yeah, I think, and it could be something as simple as like maybe a paragraph of narrative telling us you evaluated, here's the pros and cons, and I think we just wanted to know, tell us about why the design is the way it is.
Mhm.
That would be helpful.
I'll talk to you more about that tonight.
Okay.
Next comment, provide contextual information on what would happen to accessory structures, patios, carports, ramps, etc. on the lots that he realigned. I'm going to throw that again to hometown.
And I think, Josh, would that just focus on the 9 lots, or are there other lots in which that might come into play?
There might be other lots where, some of the, infill may affect that, but like, for example, there is a home that will have to be, rotated, yeah, for the creation of, the roadway off of, a torch.
Mhm.
You know, if they have a, patio, if they have a carport, what happens to it?
And I would assume that one unit, out of all the units that you have that you may infill, that's one unit you are counting on in order to create this road. Is that fair?
Yep.
I think I'd be curious to hear how far you've gotten, if you have consensus and voluntary approval by that one unit. Otherwise, this entire area of proposed units off of Torch seems to be reliant on it.
Mhm.
And so we'd be curious to hear how far you've gotten.
So, that's 24.
Yeah, that would be the unit of, you're at 24 Torch Lane. If that unit does not wish to relocate, then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 additional units that are essentially lack access to the new roadway expansion.
As currently depicted. Yeah, and that touches on something else that I'm gonna go to about Kiva.
Okay.
All right, next item, provide additional information on the rationale behind the waiver requested from the requirements by a letter from Kent County Water Authority about providing water service. Can such a letter be reasonably incorporated at this stage of the application? I will ask.
Yeah, if it's a nominal exchange of information they need,
Mhm.
let's see if we can get them. I doubt water supply is gonna be the critical issue here. But if what you're asking for is a waiver because it will be intensive, detailed technical information that needs to be exchanged, I'd like to hear about that. I think that's reasonable. If it's just as simple as we just didn't ask them yet, and my thought is, why don't we ask them and see what we can get in a month's time? Does that make sense?
That is perfectly reasonable.
Right.
Next comment, the location and details of the proposed septic systems will be part of the preliminary plan stage stipulated. The landscaping plan will be required at preliminary plan stage stipulated.
While we're on the subject, you heard traffic study at preliminary plan stage.
Yeah, I'm gonna flip over.
I know.
Comprehensive.
Yeah, no, I don't mind this detail.
And we already talked about planning staff request to consolidate.
No problems from your end.
I'm going to refer to Tom as far as the ordinance petition. I think we've already talked about that.
I'm concerned procedurally
Yeah.
about the request.
Go ahead.
So the solicitor has submitted, whatever he submitted, to the clerk, to put on the agenda for the 26th. And if I make these, I can't make these changes, but if I suggest these changes to the solicitor,
I think you're procedurally, I think you're asking the right question.
right,
So keep in mind, the solicitor informed me that he did not desire to make any substantive edits to this document. I think he was just making formatting edits or perhaps just clarifying language. Planning is certainly suggesting substantive edits. Most of our edits are coming from the idea that we're looking at what the existing mobile home district says, and we're looking at what you provided, and where we saw there was a difference, we said why. So one is you guys took away the 6,000 minimum. What I'm hearing from you is that's just to protect the rights of existing units. I don't have a concern with that, and I think we could get on the same page there.
sure.
I think what we're curious is, are there substantive concerns that you have with the changes we're recommending, which are largely to bring this ordinance for this particular parcel of land completely in line with the underlying mobile home district standards? So it's held to the same standard across the board, including, providing the shared facility for laundry, sanitation, management. So we weren't sure when you removed them. Our thought was, why would you remove them and what's the plan? If at the end of the day, you're fine putting them back in, the next step is let's talk to the solicitor and say, do we need a reset of this and a reposting? Just let's get caught up to that. Or can we handle these type of changes on the fly, which means that the council can agree to these changes? If we get to the point where you don't have a problem with the changes, the solicitor says he doesn't have a problem making those changes on the fly, then we get to a point where at the very least we can move forward with good faith that perhaps the recommendations can say, we recommend on the ordinance this way, but we need these changes made by the council on the floor. And then the council can do whatever they want with it. But the real question is, Tom, do you see something in this list that you specifically wanted to exclude and we aren't on the same page on?
The only thing I'm really, it's just ignorance on my part. I don't know what insert existing mobile home district standard in accordance with 255-1130 B2 of the code. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I mean, take your time to look at it.
Yeah.
Everything that we picked up was because it was something that you put in your ordinance that was different than the underlying code. So there's a sentence that exists that, the underlying code includes that little provision and includes that sentence that in accordance with the section of code, you guys removed it. To us, it jumps out to us as why would you remove it? Is there an idea behind it? And if you said there is an idea, we don't like it, this is why we're gonna do something different, we'd like to hear about it and get and
No,
understand it.
you've already accurately summarized the reason that the pre-existing non-conforming portions of the park don't comply with that section.
And if that's the only reason, then I think there's a way to put that code back in to protect the new creation of units with some documentation that the new code won't be used to adversely impact the pre-existing. Perhaps we can just get on the same page. And if that's the same issue with all of these,
It is, yeah.
okay, then I think we can get on the same page. So Tom, you and I should be talking offline about, are there any conflicts that you have with including these back in with a caveat that this shall not be used to adversely affect pre-existing existing sites? Someone already has a site, they're on a small site, we're not looking to render their site without lawful use. That's not our goal.
Sure.
So I think if we can get on the same page of that, we're getting pretty close on the ordinance.
Yeah, so that's. I think we'll be fine. I just don't know procedurally whether the town council can count that as a first reading.
I
And
know,
that's
I
up to
think it's
the
too
solicitor.
late to stop the first reading that's happening tomorrow night. No, I'm sorry. Actually, we aren't.
It's a week.
We have, it needs to be posted 4 days before, so there's a chance that we can repost
Okay.
and still have a new revised, catch that first reading. And there's also a chance that these changes can be considered as, less, there's changes that can be made on the fly on the floor of the council.
Sure. I
So,
mean, you have had 10 times the communication with the solicitor about this ordinance that I have.
understood.
So if we can make those changes and you can communicate with the solicitor and get a response, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kevin, I don't mean to, but you had a comment on this.
Well, no, it's just, it's
Yeah.
simple when you were talking about that, the existing house, units, just grandfathered in. Basically, and it's as simple as it gets.
It is, except this is new. I currently have a planned unit development that says I can have, so many mobile homes and 96 apartments on this land. And that is not being continued. The solicitor has made a decision that we are gonna place an ordinance on this, well, it's gonna be one lot, right? One lot.
Well, it's-
And that action is legislative, can't be appealed and, is new. Right, this is why I'm squinting hard, right, is because it's new. It's not, I can't rely on the 2003 PUD
Doesn't exist.
because it will cease to exist. So I have to,
But the existing sites will be grandfathered into.
Well, I think
that's what I'm trying to preserve, yeah.
I think,
right.
Tom, where we're headed is
I think
perhaps
the same
some
thing.
language in this ordinance that describes that this ordinance and this new legislative action shall not be used to impair the
I
existing.
tried to throw that in there, but when you get down to the specifics, the width of the road or the. We're not there, so, in general, is that disclaimer or preservation of rights, but. On a more detailed level, if you're fine with me adding some language after this little, these requirements that they'll only apply to the new. Well, not just new, but changed sites, then I'm okay with it.
Yeah, now, obviously,
Yeah.
legal language, we'll always take our time and review it,
Yeah,
but
right.
I think from what our discussion is here, Tom, we're not looking at this differently.
No,
I think we're getting closer on the ordinance just by exchanging some conversations and maybe getting this into a different position. So that's to be discussed.
sure.
I'd say let's chat as soon as this afternoon about, if you're in a position to offer a rewrite, then I can share with Steve and I can try to expedite it.
Well, as Mike has mentioned several times, we have talked to the client.
Yeah,
about
understood.
it, well,
Understood.
Okay, but yes, I'm pleased to do it. I just don't want to do it in a way that's ineffective,
Sure.
so that the first reading doesn't have the intent.
Yeah, right now, we know we're gonna have a first reading on the matter, so, at least we know we're properly in place to be discussing it on Wednesday night of next week. The idea is unless we get clarifications, we may be properly in place to discuss it, but with a negative staff recommendation.
Well, so the statutorily, the key piece to us is that it's being introduced to council on the 26th,
Right.
because any action you take, even the comments you've made so far, or don't have any effect.
No, this is all just communication we're
Yeah,
exchanging right now.
So until I get before the council on the 26th, it's all just conversation, I
Yeah.
said, so. And I just don't want that to be, without meaning.
No, and I mean, the comments we're having right now might actually, put you in a position where you have a different ordinance that's read on the 26th. We may still have time, but
Okay,
that would depend on how quickly you and the client get on the same page, and then you and I get on the same page.
I still don't think you accurately defined the roadblock, but okay. It's, all right, sure, yeah, these are all things that can be handled with language.
Fair enough.
I'd like to just briefly touch on the comments received today from the various TRC members.
Yep.
Mr. McGee, traffic study, understood. We will have one done for you and provided
Everybody.
for everyone, the whole team. We will do that, as part of our preliminary plan submission. Conservation Commission review, if it's desired by the planning department, certainly set of plans can be provided to them for their comment and input.
I think the one thing we've got is, the planning commission's picking this up next week on Wednesday. There's not a conservation commission meeting between now and Wednesday. So this is gonna ultimately be something that the planning commission is gonna have the right to elect for an additional stop and an additional advisory review by the conservation commission. I don't have a concern with where we're headed there, but the idea is that ultimately, if we're asking this applicant to take more time, we may be continuing anyway, or we may be in a position where we have a decision and then the commission has to decide, do we want the conservation commission to weigh in? And that's something that, it's a process question that I think is ultimately the planning commission needs to vote on.
Okay.
Only the planning commission votes on additional advisors being asked to come in. Otherwise, anybody can say that this should go to 12 different stops before it goes to the planning commission, and we'd be here for a year.
All right, so you're talking about Concom master plan.
I'm talking about the Kevin's comment was to get the Concom comments. What I'm suggesting is ultimately that's gonna be the planning commission's decision if they want the conservation commission to weigh in, because it certainly won't happen before their meeting on August 27th.
Okay. All right.
And I do think Kevin's comments were about how some of the work is close to the stream and close to wetland areas. So those are also technical concerns that perhaps the applicant can address, how the application can still be brought forward in a way that is consistent with the environmental concerns that may exist and the DEM permitting that may exist. We all understand that that's not something you would owe us until the next stage of review in detail. But I think that's the level of information perhaps Mr. McGee was looking for, which was, some of this is near a stream. Let's see if we need any additional advice on that.
Okay. And the last comment was related to the private status of Airport Road and the need for a use agreement. Understood and stipulated, should we need to access any part of Airport Road, our plans currently don't call for any new access points. So, unless that is, changes, and it might, depending on conversations, but it might not because of that. So I think Tom will have to look into that a little bit more with the ownership of Airport Road.
Yeah. How many owners of Airport Road are there, don't you know? Are there many?
So this was probably the biggest notice that we've done in recent memory. 557 mailings.
Because you mailed everybody in the park and then everybody 500 feet outside the park?
500 feet, yeah.
Okay.
In fact, most of the phone calls I got are people who live on Main Street asking me why they got notice. But yeah, so I know the owners of Airport Road from that research. About 12 of them.
12 owners of Airport Road?
Well, is one owner of probably half of those parcels under different LLCs and such.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Probably about 6 total.
is there, I think Kevin's comment was talking about getting some agreement on that. Is this project going to require that agreement, or is this project coming on a piece of land that happens to be next to that existing ownership or operation? I'm wondering, are you in a position where you can effectuate change there, or is that just, you're in a position to only advise what is happening?
We can always ask, but a lot of that will depend on how Kevin, Josh, and Mike come out on that cul-de-sac extension onto Airport Road.
As to how this relates to the project, but the idea is that, right now, you may not be able to effectuate a change to the management or maintenance of that because you don't control all the 12 private property owners.
That's right.
This application isn't, then held because you can't get, operations there. It won't be held against you.
Right.
But the idea is if you have clarification, if you have information, certainly seems like now's a good time to get it. Does that make sense?
Sure, it makes sense. I would love to say that I could do it, but
Yeah, fair enough.
I have my doubts.
I have confidence in it.
Thanks, Kevin. Kevin, you mentioned Kitty Hawk Lane
Yeah.
in your comments.
And again, this is only an
This would be a
observation.
good time to like.
If
hit
you
that.
look at Kitty Hawk and you connect Kitty Hawk to that cul-de-sac, it looks like you might be able to pick the 9 lots that you were talking about. It would take the other people out of moving lots out of effect. Again, I haven't engineered it and I'll let the engineer do that, but looking at connecting those two, seemed that you might be able to pick up those 9 lots.
Are you trying to, that's where there's the big depression, where
Right.
the abutter had cut into your land. Are you looking to refill that depression, or is that something you're not touching?
It's a kennel hole, and there was some concern about whether or not there was some wetlands in there.
Okay.
We
Again,
don't
from
believe,
the plan of this select, it was be take care of your issues with the residents, and also at the same time, put a continuous road through so that you're not getting cul-de-sacs.
whoever's kindly doing the
That's Alex.
graphics, Alex, that's great. Could you zoom in a little? I can talk more. If you zoom in a little bit more and over to the left. That little area of wood
Right here.
from the end of Kitty Hawk, yeah, there's a big depression that is present, has been present. There was some concern that there might be wetlands in it. Our latest conversation with the biologist who's been most recently on the site is that there are no wetlands in that kettle home. So,
Just a thought for observation. If
something
you have
we
an
can
issue with
consider.
9
Yep.
residents, you might be able to find a way of doing that.
yeah, and that goes to Doug, something, an observation you made about the
Oh, yeah, that's,
number 24 torch lane.
that's, so somewhere around here, actually, where the roadway extension is shown, that's not where 24 is.
It's a couple houses
A
down.
couple houses down, so, I mean, obviously, the concept of using this land back here kind of becomes dependent on 24 Torch Lane, or it becomes dependent on your ability to connect to that lane from a different area.
Right. And there's the other record that Tom mentioned, which is we're currently engaged with the abutter, as far as the extent of clearing that's taking place onto hometown's property. which
Understood.
is-
Yeah, and I mean, that's all a civil matter that we will say, doesn't come to bear on this unless you guys
it'll
try to
not-
bring it to bear.
It'll last further than whatever approval or rejection we receive from the planning commission.
Understood. Understood.
Chief Katie had a comment about the water system and the 3-year assessment report. Assuming that that's in line with the other documentation we're gonna provide at the preliminary plan stage, I think I can speak comfortably for hometown that they would engage with a water modeling professional to evaluate the system and identify the flow rates and pressures in the park, both under current conditions as well as prospective future conditions.
Yep.
So
For prelim plan.
for prelim, provided that's acceptable, we can commit to that.
Yep.
As far as the comments about lighting being more desirable but not mandated, my suggestion for hometown would be to have a photometric analysis and plan developed for the overall development.
Yep.
Look at the existing illumination that's out there, look at the light levels, and then determine areas where it would be advisable to increase that. But I think also as part of that would involve, as he referenced, some of the residents may not want to have a lot more illumination, so I think it wouldn't be done in a vacuum by hometown. It would require some input from the residents.
No, yeah, I picture we may get comments about that as we get into the meetings in which public comments are taken. Some may say we think it's poorly lit and we want more lights, and some may say we want more lights, but it better not be right above my unit. That's a conversation that I think we'll be looking for you guys to evolve at the next stage, just so we have information.
Yep.
Whether you need to give me a photometrics plan, I'll leave it up to you. But ultimately, I think, if you're not changing a lot of lighting, and that's because you have some narrative information as to why, then,
I'm an engineer, Doug, I don't like to
Okay.
talk in kind of sort ofs and
then,
subjective terms of it's too bright, it's too dim. I'd rather have an actual plan that somebody has looked at and said, you've got 1 foot candle at this location, you've got half a foot candle. These are the applicable standards that usually would apply. And we have some basis when talking technical terms.
yeah, but I do agree that the applicant on a private property has the ability to dictate some of that. But I think we'd like information on where you're headed.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Joe, you had the comment about the COC, and we talked about this. The process will be followed once the development is approved and constructed, what's going to be required on the part of Hometown America to provide construction oversight, either by the engineer of record or a designated on-site inspector. And then confirmation at the end of it all before any kind of building permits are issued, that all of the work has been appropriately completed. And I don't think that would be an issue. We talked about the SESE plan, I think. That would be part and parcel with the project overall. We're gonna need to submit for some locations to DEM, I suspect, so we will develop that as a matter of course. And sewer capacity analysis, I did touch on that a little bit before. We need to get a better handle on where the sewers currently are and what they are and what they can handle. Then we can talk about what we're gonna try to achieve with them and plug into them. Last, Chief Wick, you mentioned.
Actually, before we move on, stormwater is an issue that's been discussed.
Mhm.
We discussed it with Chris Coleman. The idea is that some of the previous improvements that were made to the park, not part of this immediate proposal, but previous proposals. It's not clear to us what level of stormwater information or stormwater management practices were used. I think we're looking for this plan to help educate us on what's out there, what has been built that perhaps we didn't see, what wasn't built that perhaps should be considered, and then get caught up on that.
You and me both.
Okay, so you're comfortable with everything Joe asked for in terms of that preliminary plan, having those details. I assume we also may get comments as we move along, as we've heard from some abutters already about areas where there's ponding and drainage issues. So we may be learning through this process where there are areas to concentrate those efforts.
Yeah, and actually, we did receive a copy of the letter that was submitted to the town council, and I reached out immediately to Hometown.
Was that a letter that we received as well?
I don't know which letter that the town council received.
And it was the letter that was submitted to the town
Yeah, I have a
council.
copy of it.
It
Some of the
may, it
residents.
may be,
Sort of looks like-
Yeah, we've seen this.
yes.
So
we
to
have
follow
this,
up on some of
We
the,
didn't know it was shared with the town council, but we do now.
I believe it
Well,
was,
it's addressed to,
Okay,
this is a
all right,
honorable
great.
town council.
Yeah, so they've received a copy already,
we
as well as
reached,
you guys.
and we reached out to
They said-
Hometown
In person.
and asked them specifically, can you get us some information if there are areas of concern related to stormwater? We'd like to know about it so we can try to investigate it and address it. And the response we got from Hometown anyway was that they're not aware of any areas that are habitually flooded. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not there. It just means that there's some more investigation that we're gonna need to do, to determine if they're there, where are they, how severe are they, and how can they be remedied?
This is, I feel like this moment where you're looking to expand the park, you're gonna be doing building activities. This is the moment where it'd be good to clean up any of those areas with notable stormwater issues. Because we do know there's been recent construction, where it's unclear to us how the stormwater, management strategies were incorporated into previous plans.
And the last one I had is Chief Whitney was mentioned that we'd be happy with the traffic analysis, which we've already said. We'll
Yeah,
provide them.
prelim.
Yep. And that covers
So-
everything.
That was a lot of good information, Mike. I appreciate you going through that. That answers some of our questions.
I have a question for you and Josh. So density,
Yes,
the residential mobile home statute ordinance is silent on the calculation of density. As to the state law, including wetland buffers and in the area when doing the calculation. Now, my ordinance that I wrote, includes it. But I'm not trying to slip one by. I just want to, this is technical review. This is a technical issue.
well, when you say the code is silent on density, the code is. And I'm shooting from the hip and Josh will jump in and correct me, but there are
Sure.
two provisions that control the number of units. One is that there's a maximum number of units that any mobile home park can contain,
Right.
and I believe that is, I think it's 200 per park. And so you've exceeded that. You already exceed that. I
Right.
mean, you're already at, 400
Right.
something.
66.
So we understand that, and your code, I think, has explicitly described how this action would be found compatible with this site. So we understand that we're gonna be a differentiation between this site and all other mobile home sites as it relates to that 200 max. And I think you captured that correctly in
Right.
your code. We did not have a concern at that point. Then the other one was a number of sites per acre in the code.
That's what I'm talking about.
All right, so there is a cap on the number of sites per acre that the regular mobile home code offers.
Yes,
And they're exceeding that as well.
Yes.
And so what's your question?
Does that statute, or does that ordinance recognize or incorporate around general law, whatever it is, 45, 23, 44, where you can include wetlands and wetland setback in the area denominator of that math problem?
In other words, I think they've carved out buffers as being non-suitable land, the density calculations.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think I understand. Your question is this ordinance, should this ordinance assume the same density calculation procedure that state law prescribes?
That's what I have. I put it in,
Yeah.
but I
That-
don't,
Yes.
I'm gonna,
Yeah.
I just wanna raise the issue, right? And see how
No, I
somebody-
think we understand that you're asking for more density than the baseline underlying code has, but I think for calculation purposes, we would assume you should still take the same precautions, or I guess the same subtractions from suitable land
Right.
that state law would have. That way it's all apples to apples. So we understand you're asking for density. We just want it to be an apples to apples ask compared to all other land calculation for suitability purposes. Does that answer your question?
It will, but, Mike being the conservative guy that he is, he didn't include those setbacks in the area.
No, I did.
So you did,
I included the buffers
buffers,
for the unsuitable area.
right? But there's,
So.
Oh, you
this is-
included buffers,
I included buffers and what was.
but
considered
so state
unsuitable.
law changed and state law took buffers away, but was that just for permit applications or was that for
I think so.
density of other major land development?
it's just a very short paragraph. It's not,
Well, then, I
No,
understand
you
what you're
gotta-
asking. So you're asking,
it's-
should the buffers
it's
be
44.
included in your calculations for density because state law no longer excludes that?
Right.
Is that the question?
45,
Right now-
23, 44, just so you can take a look at it. later.
45, 23, 44.
Correct.
This is the most conservative interpretation that does deduct buffer areas as well as the wetlands themselves. From suitable areas, so you're gonna end up with higher density.
Yep.
We did, the calculation of counting the buffers as suitable and not unsuitable, and it reduces the density.
If you
So,
counted the
really-
buffers as being suitable, does it remove the need for you to seek a density that is greater than, you still need density that's greater than the underlying code?
It still does.
It's a matter of what,
Yeah.
I understand,
I just wanna let you know that that is a change that I added to the ordinance
when, like just a few weeks ago?
when I wrote it, yeah,
Yeah, because of that state law changed, what, late June?
late June, right,
So your ordinance is reflecting the new state laws of late June
right.
and the calculation. But your number of units, is that declared?
It is
The density number that you're seeking is declared,
4.02,
and that's based on the new state law.
No, that's the
No.
old.
based on the old.
Oh,
We have our own conundrum, but we took the most conservative approach.
I understand.
I think it drops to 3.5 per acre if you plug the set buffers back in.
I don't have an answer for you, but I understand it and I appreciate you raising it.
Okay.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're only seeking the number of units you're seeking. It's all just a math equation in
Sure.
terms of how much is that above the density level or not.
We just wanna be upfront, accurate.
Yeah. I would defer to, like, we should work with the current state law. What I'm worried about is that current state law changes over time.
Almost every year at this point.
And so I don't want the number of units you're eligible for to change over time.
Right,
But at the end of the day, we can get there. I mean, perhaps there's something we write that's just plain language as to, they're allowed to add 46 additional units.
Yeah.
It's understood this means a density increase of approximately this much as defined by current state law.
so I think the ordinance, as written, it includes the actual hard maximum units.
Yep.
So
Which I think it should.
the end result's the same.
Yep.
That's okay.
Counselor, just I want to understand this. Based upon the new calculation of the maximum amount of MHD that can be built in town, you're maximizing it
Yes,
through this application. So you would preclude any other mobile homeowner from selling and asking for an expansion also. So that caps anybody else from selling their properties to expand their mobile home park. Is that correct?
just this one. This ordinance
Is
is specific and different from the residential mobile home ordinance.
So you get a separate mobile home.
We
not-
have- Right, this is
exclusive
what
of
the
the other.
solicit is, his design is that, well, we have our own ordinance.
Okay,
Yeah,
so that hometown can buy somebody else and keep expanding.
well, there's. two
Not on
things
this
that-
land.
No, no,
There's,
this-
so
Okay.
there's a zoning ordinance that dictates how many units and the density that's allowed on any given mobile home site. You're addressing that with your ordinance. There's a non-zoning ordinance that dictates how many mobile homes across the entire town are allowed to be built, which is a calculation based on the number of the population of the town at the time. We calculated that. I believe we're allowed to add 47, Josh? Based on the population, we would be townwide.
Exact number, but it's pretty close to that.
47 or 48.
Okay.
And Josh took on the effort of calling every single established mobile home park in town to ask if they wished to add units, if they had any foreseeable desire to add units. They all said no. So I believe at this point, we said that there was not a reason for this applicant to seek the remaining allowance on a townwide basis. Now, that allowance is established through a non-zoning section. There's not, I don't understand a relief for that. So the cap is the cap.
Right.
Oddly enough, if the population goes down, which I don't predict, but if the population goes down, somehow we have to find a way to remove mobile homes that exist. I think that because we contacted every mobile home park in the town and nobody expressed a desire for additional homes on their own mobile home park, we did not see a conflict with that ordinance at this point in time. It's still a policy decision of the council and of the planning commission if they want to add those units here as part of this zone change. But we at least got as far as you're not stealing units from another mobile home park owner that wants them. From a practical perspective, we tried to get to that information.
I didn't know that analysis after.
Yeah, Josh did the phone calls and, Josh, if you want to speak to it, I mean, I think you did get in touch with the major park owners. right?
Yes.
And they were clear on what was being asked of them and they clearly said, no, and we do not desire another mobile home in our park. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So, I think that helps, for communication purposes. Josh will reflect on that analysis and that process in our memo. It still is a policy of the council or anybody if they wish to add those units here through the zoning ordinance that you're proposing. Does that make sense?
Does?
You guys have any more comments?
I've had enough fun.
Okay. Tom,
Good, yeah.
based on everything, does any other comments or questions from TRC members? No. Thank you. All right, well, with that being said,
Adjourn.
yep, I will consider the meeting adjourned as we again not addressing the policy crossing at this meeting. Thank you very much.
State residents that haven't signed the petition yet. They're back.
Have a quick question. Didn't get,